All right, he's certainly had his share of tragedies to deal with. This Las Vegas shooting, of course, just the latest after dealing with one hurricane after another, and on and on and on we go. Puerto Rico just yesterday. Former senior White House advisor and multiple best-selling author Karl Rove on how he's doing at this job. It's, as you and I have discussed, not one that's written in by our forefathers, but it's a prominent one for modern-day presidents, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And there are two components to it. We've seen both of them today. There's a formal component. You saw that, for example, in the remarks that he made in the news conference. Really well done and well delivered. You know, in the depths of horror, we will always find hope. He talked about our souls are stricken when he was talking about the victims. We stand together to carry your pain. I mean, this was well written, well delivered, clearly from the president's heart. But there's also an informal part to this, and we didn't see as much of that today, but we'll see more of it in the conversations that people share about his visit to the hospital. You saw some of it in the informal banter back and forth between he and the chief physician at the hospital. You saw it in the session with the first responders. You even saw it before he made his formal remarks. You could just tell when he reached back there and he was talking about the sheriff and he reached back and put his hand on his shoulder, that just conveyed a lot of respect and a lot of affection. The banter back and forth with the mayor, who's known not to be a fan of the president's, but the banter back and forth there showed an ease with it. So the informal stuff, which I think we're going to see and hear more about in the days ahead, is probably going to have an even bigger impact than the president's formal remarks, which were really well done.
You know, Karl, you've dealt with President Bush having to do this after 9/11, of course, through so many natural disasters and all. But his presence matters, right? Right. When a president arrives on a site, you know it's a big deal because they've moved heaven and earth to make it possible. And that's why so many presidents are very careful. I don't want to intrude in whatever recovery or efforts are going on to help folks. But it changes the dynamics completely, doesn't it?
Oh, it sure does. And particularly, I can just imagine the people in the hospital to feel that the President of the United States is journeyed from Washington, D.C. to Las Vegas and to come to their hospital room, giving them a word of encouragement. You saw when he was bantering, he said, I've spontaneously invited people to the White House, and they all took him up on it. And I suspect we're likely to see a wonderful event at the White House in the months ahead, featuring, I hope, not only the people who were shot, but the so many people, and I'm glad the President dwelt on this. We had enormously heroic first responders who wore uniforms, but we also had an enormous number of people who saved lives and put themselves in danger, who were ordinary civilians who were attending that concert and risked their lives to help a fellow human being to safety or to save their life. I mean, the stories that you hear about these people are just remarkable. It does something enormous about our country, and I'm so glad the President drew attention to it.
Do you get a sense that I always think enormous events like this affect presidents? I mean, obviously that's an understatement, but the enormity of that and the pressure placed on them to try to pick up people's spirits or to try to be there for them, that's some heavy-duty stuff.
Yeah, no, look, there's a reason why if you look at every president, they age in office. Yeah. You can just see it happen. And it's because they understand when they deal in moments like this, their important role. Now, yesterday was different because today he was the comforter. Yesterday he was not only the comforter in Puerto Rico, but it's also clear to him he's the guy in charge of the recovery phase of this, and he's the guy ultimately in charge of making certain that the people of Puerto Rico have electricity and water and that their life returns to normal. So the weight of that is enormous on any president. Today there's not a lot that as president he can do for each and every one of those individuals, but his mere presence there does a lot.
All right. Karl, well said, my friend. Thank you very much. A little historical perspective we could all use. All right, and now some